Hey everyone, welcome to our camp with another recap. The story begins with Kyle sitting in an exam session, but he ends up scoring terribly. He goes to the principal and asks for help so he can score 1,430 on the next test. The principal laughs because Kyle's current score is almost 400 points lower, and raising it that much by the next exam is basically impossible. Maddie, Kyle's friend, isn't doing any better. His only goal is to get into the same university as his girlfriend so he can see her every day. But when he opens the letter from the university, he finds out he didn't get in.
Oh, shit!
Both of them work after school at a delivery company, and Maddie spends the entire day frustrated about being rejected. They go to the testing center's office to complain, but the guard won't let them in. At that exact moment, a girl their age walks right in without any issue. Kyle complains, asking why she can go in while they can't. The guard says her father owns the entire building. When they get home, Maddie calls his girlfriend to explain everything, but a guy picks up the phone. Kyle thinks it must be her roommate, but she had already told Maddie that her roommate is a girl. Maddie loses it and throws his phone. He decides that no matter what it takes, he has to pass the next test so he can go see his girlfriend, even if it means doing something illegal. Kyle immediately understands what he means.
You want to steal the answers to the SAT.
And to him, stealing the answer sheet sounds completely insane. Kyle gets home and finds his crazy brother playing guitar on top of the dryer. Kyle doesn't want his life to end up like his brother's just because he didn't go to college.
Thank you, Princeton, New Jersey!
His mother is grading first graders' tests, even though most of the kids can't even read yet. She explains that these tests are only about money, and schools and teachers make more profit because of the system. Kyle finally realizes all of this is about money, and none of it is fair. So he decides to take Maddie's idea seriously, but to steal the answer sheets, they'll need a real plan. Maddie finds out that the girl the guard let in earlier actually goes to their school, so the two of them approach her. Francesca likes their idea because she believes the test is designed in a way that makes it harder for girls to get high scores, but she says she won't help until they have an actual plan. Kyle talks to her for a long time and promises he'll make a real plan, but only if she agrees to join. She agrees, but not for the score, just because it sounds fun. Later, Kyle drags Maddie into the bathroom to tell him something important. He checks under every stall to make sure no one is there, then admits that he told his crush about the plan, but she refused to join. Maddie freaks out because Kyle's crush is the class nerd and absolutely shouldn't have known anything. Maddie kicks one of the stall doors, and suddenly someone inside responds. Roy had heard everything, and now he's joining the plan too. The next morning, they all meet in front of the testing center. Roy acts weird and chaotic, and everyone thinks he's an idiot, but he's actually a computer genius. Francesca gets them 2 courier uniform outfits and manages to get them inside without any trouble. But as soon as they enter the main hallway, the secretary stops them. Right then, Roy shows up and hands them fake ID badges so they can get in. They quickly change out of the uniforms and start searching the office. A manager calls Kyle over and asks him to print some documents. Kyle looks at the first page carefully and realizes they're the test answers. Trying not to show his excitement, he leaves the office and finds Maddie in the copy room. Kyle tries to make a copy for themselves, but accidentally feeds the pages straight into the shredder. The plan fails, and they both go back to work. At the entrance, Kyle runs into his crush, Anna. She says she wants to join the plan, but Kyle is shocked at how suddenly she's changed her mind. Anna explains that her family is counting on her getting into a good university, and even though she has good grades, she keeps messing up tests. Kyle talks to Maddie, but Maddie only gets angrier when he finds out Anna told Dez, the school's basketball star. Dez dreams of joining the NBA, but because of his mother's pressure, he has to go to a good university instead. Kyle promises he'll come up with a proper plan. So he meets Francesca at a cafe, and she brings him the building's blueprints. That night, everyone gathers at Kyle's house, but when he arrives, he finds his brother throwing a party. Kyle uses his brother's room in the garage so he can explain the plan. But before he even starts, the tension is already high. Francesca doesn't understand why a nerd would be part of the plan. Dez is on his phone the entire time, and Roy isn't paying attention at all. Kyle, seeing everything starting to fall apart, reminds everyone that most of them only got dragged into this because of their families, and if they want to pull this off, they need to stay focused. The plan is this. Francesca puts Kyle and Maddie's names on her father's office visitor list so they can get inside without trouble. They'll stay there with her until nightfall, while the rest keep watch outside the building. Later, Francesca will ask the night guard to turn off the backstair alarm so she can take a few packages out, which is something she's done before. Kyle and Maddie have only 20 seconds to get through the hallway before the guard gets back to the security monitors. Then, they're supposed to reach the main section through the rooftop vents. Apparently, everyone's satisfied with the plan. The next morning, they follow it exactly, and the guard doesn't notice a thing. They get to the roof, but all the vents have locks. Kyle says he forgot the bolt cutter, then says he's kidding. They put on their masks and slip successfully into the main area. There's a security camera sweeping back and forth non-stop. When the camera turns away, Kyle and Francesca cross the hallway, but Maddie's goggles have fogged up and he slams into a table. The camera begins turning back, and Francesca pulls him to safety just in time. They reach the records room. Francesca enters the code and the door opens, but the room is empty.
Serious waste of time.
Kyle guesses the test questions must be somewhere else, but right then the guard shows up and they all hide inside the room. Maddie and Francesca end up pressed against each other and both get awkwardly flustered. When the guard leaves, Kyle tells them that the manager who gave him the printed papers had asked for one copy back, so the questions are probably still in his office. Outside, Roy is so bored he's climbed a tree and spots the guard stepping out for a smoke. Flashlight beams show through the windows, and Roy tries to call them, but his phone falls into water. Anna grabs Dez's phone and calls them, telling them to turn the flashlights off. The guard comes back and notices a flicker of light for a second, but assumes he was wrong. Inside, the three of them think they're done for, but nothing happens. They enter the manager's office, but find nothing. Maddie turns on the computer, but it's locked with a password. They need Roy to get into the system. Maddie quickly calls his friend at the flower shop and asks him to deliver a bouquet immediately to the address he gives. Kyle calls Roy and explains the plan. A moment later, Maddie's friend arrives, and Francesca rushes downstairs. The guard stands up from his desk, surprised to see the flowers. Maddie signals her, and Francesca opens the back door, but instead of Roy, Anna suddenly starts running in and Roy follows. Dez runs too, and Roy falls behind everyone else. He stops for a few seconds to catch his breath. The guard has returned to his desk, but before he spots Roy, the door closes. Roy sits at the computer and tries to log in, but can't. Then he notices the manager's wife's photo on the desk and realizes what the password is. He finally gets in. Roy finds the answer file, but it's locked behind 3 more passwords. Kyle asks him to hack it, but there isn't enough time. Kyle realizes the question file isn't locked and tells everyone to forget the answers, just solve the questions themselves. They divide the questions among themselves while Francesca and Maddie keep watch. Maddie confesses to Francesca that the whole reason he did all of this was to get back together with his girlfriend, but he hasn't talked to her in weeks. Francesca realizes that Maddie just can't accept that the relationship is already over. She kisses him, and he freezes. Meanwhile, the others solve the test questions as fast as they can, writing the answers on small slips of paper. They finish and have to leave the same way they came in. Anna climbs the rope ladder first, Kyle right behind her. Suddenly, all the lights turn on. The guard enters the main section. Maddie and Roy panic and both try to climb the rope ladder, but the rope snaps. Maddie looks for Francesca, but she's trapped in the hallway. She pushes the card for the back door under the door so they can escape. Dez jumps up and pulls himself to safety, then helps Roy climb. Maddie hesitates. He's just lost his girlfriend, and if Francesca gets caught, he'll lose her too. Kyle waits for Maddie to take his hand, but Maddie has decided to save Francesca. He grabs a monitor, pretends it's a robbery, and lets the guard see him. The police arrest Maddie, and he's taken straight to jail. Months pass, and he's finally released. When he walks out, Francesca is there. They've both been waiting for this moment for a long time, and they kiss. Exam day arrives, and everyone agrees to meet early at school. Kyle is about to hand out the answer sheets, but no one needs them anymore. Des has decided to join the NBA, and Maddie no longer sees any reason to go to college. Everyone is stunned when Francesca says she scored a 1460 on her last test and only joined the whole scheme for fun. Even Anna has finally stood up to her family, and Roy never cared much about college anyway. Kyle gets upset, thinking all their effort was pointless. But in reality, the plan is exactly what gave them the confidence to stand up to their families. When Kyle sees that no one is using the answers, he steps back too, because he's not about to let some silly exam decide his dream. Roy snatches all the answer sheets from Kyle and hands them out to a few people so their work doesn't go to waste. Maddie gets into acting, and Francesca supports him. Kyle scores well on the test and gets into the major he wanted. Anna moves to Europe, but she and Kyle still see each other on weekends. Roy ends up creating the year's best-selling game and becomes rich. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, you know what to do.